if you want. Otherwise, they'll disappear. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
Isaac asked me what I was teaching in Sunday school, and I said we'd been doing finances, and he kind of asked if I could do just a one-lesson thing since Adam's not here, to provide something for Sunday school. So for my class, this is going to be kind of a review, so I'm sure you all know all of this stuff already and what you're supposed to be doing with your finances. For the rest of you, I'm going to condense 3 months' worth of financial lessons into 30 minutes. And so, since I'm so flexible and able to do this, so we're just going to take kind of an overview. Most of us think that we are experts at financial management. And it only takes us about 6 months of our life after we have responsibility to figure out that we're not. And so everything collapses, and then we have to reevaluate. At least that was my story. I don't know about y'all. So I am not Dave Ramsey, and Dave Ramsey makes millions of dollars teaching poor people what to do with their money. So I haven't made millions of dollars doing that. Some of you, if you did marriage counseling with me, will remember perhaps some of this. We usually do financial stuff in marriage counseling, because what is the number one cause of divorce? That's right. It's not what you think. It's money. You know, that's the number one cause of divorce, is finances in the marriage. A few scriptures to get started. Proverbs 3:9, honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruits of all thine increase. Rule number 1. Amen? If you can discipline yourself to do that, that provides discipline. You can do a lot of other things if you'll just do what God says. Proverbs 24:3-4, through wisdom is a house builded, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Luke chapter 14:28-30, for which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? That's, I cannot overstress how important that is. Lest haply, after he hath laid the foundation, and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Maybe you've been there. Some of us have been there. Proverbs 13:8, poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction, but he that regardeth reproof shall be honored. Proverbs 13:22, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. This is not talking about money. This is talking about other things besides money. And the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Proverbs 22:1, a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. Proverbs 22:2, the rich and poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all. It is, as amazing as we may seem, and as unlikely as it is that all the TV preachers will tell you this, God has a place for poor people. Jesus said that the poor you will always have with you. There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is so that we can help them. Because that's our kind of duty to do that, right? And we're supposed to care for one another. And if we were all rich, we wouldn't have to care for one another. And so God has made some of us poor. Looking back through life, and I tell my class all these stories. Most of you have heard this one if you've been around here very long. This is story number 179. And when I got married, graduated from the United States Merchant Marine Academy in 1971, went into the Coast Guard because all those high-paid sailing jobs were non-existent since Vietnam was shutting down, and actually was very fortunate to get selected. There was only 12 in our class that got selected You go in the Coast Guard, and so went in the Coast Guard as a ensign in the Coast Guard. Got that big one stripe on your shoulder, feeling important. All those people with all those big hash marks down their sleeve have to salute you. It's great. It's wonderful. Payday comes around, and it's $211 twice a month. And because you're an officer, you don't get uniform allowances because they figure you're an officer. You can afford to buy your own. And you don't get, like base housing, you don't get extra money for your family because you're an officer. And so $211 twice a month, and that's not every 2 weeks. That's twice a month. Steve knows this. So sometimes there's 3 weekends in between paydays, and that's not good. Because the third weekend is pretty slow. You sit around looking at one another on the couch. It's not, it's not what your wife had in mind when she married you. So, sitting down and trying to pay bills, if you get paid $211 twice a month, is really fun. So we had it all figured out. We fortunately there was 2 or 3. We lived in Baltimore, and so there's a lot of military bases around Baltimore. So we could go to the base to do our grocery shopping and stuff like that. So after we paid our bills, did our grocery shopping, we had anywhere from 75 cents to $1.50 to get us to the next payday. I remember one time the alternator went out in my '67 Chrysler, and it was going to cost $18, and we didn't eat for 2 weeks. Because we had to have the alternator put in the car. By the way, you cannot buy an alternator for $18 anymore. So, $211 went further then than it does now. I will grant you that. So let's look at just a few things about finances. Here's my recommendations. If you are having trouble financially, you sit down, you look at your situation. Number 1, find out where your money goes. Because most people don't know. They don't. You say, what happened to all your money? You say, well, I don't have any money. Well, why don't you have any money? Well, it went somewhere. Well, where'd it go? I don't know where it went. I mean, just because I stop every day at Sonic and get the big iced tea, and it costs me, now they probably cost like $2.49 or something for one. And so if you do that every day, that's $15 a week that you've thrown away, that you could have brought stuff from home to drink or drink water. Right? God made water. They don't. Yeah. Now my wife will not drink Kingfisher water. I have to buy Fiji water. But now that I'm rich, I can do that. So number 1, find out where your money goes. You say, well, how do you do that? It's easy. My class knows how to do this. Who knows how to do this? Come on, class. Ace, how do you do this? Well, you look at your bank account, but there's something that you need to do. That's what you do. You get one of those little 5 cents or less. You can get one of those little things that has the thing around the top of it that goes like this. You put it in your pocket. Every time you spend any money, you write it down. And you will be amazed at the end of 2 weeks where your money went. Because it probably goes to ridiculous places. Because you're just driving by and say, oh, I got to have this, I got to have this. I mean, people in Kingfisher go to Walmart 3 times a day. Every time you go in Walmart, you see the same people. They're always there. Right? And they're going through the self-checkout with 3 items, and they just went 2 hours ago and went through the checkout with 3 items. And so but they didn't write it down in their little book, so they don't know where their money went. I highly recommend that you figure out where your money goes, because it's very important. Number 2, have a budget. You say, well, I don't know how to make a budget. Well, you got bills, right? If you have bills, you should be able to make a budget. Now, I know some of you are self-employed and some of you don't have a strict I get this much money every so often. And that's much more difficult. That's why I knew right from the start that I could never be an entrepreneur. So I was going to have to work for somebody else who was hopefully going to pay me, because I'm not a businessman type person. But if you are a businessman type person, budgeting is even more important.
That's right.
You've got to know, and you can do, once you've been in business for 6 months, you can do an average thing. You know what your expenses are going to be. I recommend a monthly budget. Some people only get paid once a month. If you get paid every week or every 2 weeks, you still need a monthly budget, because your rent comes due monthly, your utilities are billed to you monthly, everything gets paid monthly. So you need a monthly budget. Budgets are not made to be static. They are made to be fluid. Budgets will have to be changed. You cannot just sit down and say, okay, these are my expenses for this month. This is how much money I have. I'm going to do line items. And this is how much I'm going to have left over in extra money. And this is all of that stuff sounds nice when you put it down, but if you just do it one time, it is never going to work. It's going to have to be adjusted, because the kid's going to get sick or something's going to happen, and it's going to bust up your budget. Some things in your budget cannot be messed with. All right? If you have to pay your rent, then your rent is due, then you should pay your rent. You signed a piece of paper saying you would pay your rent, and you should pay your rent. That's non-negotiable. Pay your bills, right? Gives you a good testimony. And if the sum total of your expenses is more than your income, then you need to adjust your expenses or your income, but that's harder to adjust sometimes. So you need to adjust your expenses. So when we had small children, every time that we needed to adjust the budget, it came out of groceries. Because really, that was about the only place that was adjustable, was groceries. And so we ate sometimes many hot dogs, because you used to be able to buy hot dogs for like 39 cents for a dozen of them. And now, if you pick up a package of hot dogs, it's like $7.99 or something. But so you can buy a bag of rice at Sam's and live on it for a month. You can do amazing things with food. You do not have to eat steak every meal. I know it's hard to believe, but you really don't. So make a budget. What's the first line item in your budget? Tithe. Because it's good discipline, and because God says to. Amen? You think God can bless your finances? Amen. Think he's going to bless your finances if you're in the habit of stealing from him? No. It seems pretty simple, right? So, first line item. See, you've already got a budget. You've got how much money you come in. You know what 10% of that is. Round it off to the nearest penny. Make sure you don't give any extra. And you got your 10% for the budget. My mother-in-law was very, very precise with her tithes. But she had to be. She had to be very frugal, and she was. And we picked up some of that, and that's important. So, number one, line item, tithe. Number two, then you start your things that you have to pay. There are some things you have to pay. And so you put those down as line items. Some of those could be eventually adjustable. You might be able to find a cheaper place to live. You might be able to get a better deal on a car. There's a lot of things to be considered. And look your budget over. When you start out, after you've done it for a month, look your budget over every month for at least a year. Every month. And see, well, what can we change something here? What can we do here? If you're floating in dough, I still recommend a budget. Because you need to save money. Because when you're not flowing in dough, you might need some of it. right? Justin, he's on the road, and one day he's rich, and then he has to live for 3 months without doing anything. But at the end of 3 months, he may not be rich anymore. And that's what it takes running a budget, running a business. And if you put that in a budget, you spread that out, and you have a monthly thing, and it works for you for a year, then all of that works. You'll know where your money's going. You'll know what bills you have to pay. And I know some people say, well, I don't have enough money to make a budget. Make a budget. Because then you'll know how much money you don't have. And it's always good to know that. Number 3, don't let your wants overtake your needs. And we all do that. We all do that. Oh, I bought a brand new pickup truck in 2009. It's now 15 years old. I still have it because I can't afford another one. Have you seen the price of pickup trucks lately? I mean, I get the wanderlust every once in a while, and I think, man, if I could just, of course, mine's all beat up with hail, and it doesn't look good, and I'd do well to get $3,000 for it on a trade-in. So, but if you drive onto the lot, I want a brand new Tundra. Actually, I don't, because the engines are bad. So if I want a brand new pickup, I drive on the lot, and I look at the sticker, and I just pass out. That's what, $70,000 they want for a pickup truck? Oh, look. I got my Toyota Tundra in cash for clunkers, and I traded in my old green van that had no air conditioning, and the seats were rotted out. And they gave me $3,500 for it, and they were having an extra $3,000 off, and so I got the $42,000 Tundra for about $30,000. That was only 15 years ago. Now, if I want one, it costs me 3 times that much. So, you might not be able to buy new, right? But if you look at used pickup trucks that have 100,000 miles on them, they still want $50,000 for those. So I haven't bought one. Not yet. Well, mine will die someday, even though mine looks pretty beat up, it only has 120,000 miles on it. And so hopefully, it's a Toyota, and it's got the 5.7, and it should run for another 100,000 miles. But don't let your wants overtake your needs, because we're human beings and we like stuff. And even if you have a lot of money and you have your budget and you say, I think I could afford this. If you have to say, I think I could afford this, be careful, because you probably can't afford it. You may be able to afford it this month, but next month is coming. And so that's why you need to revise your budget every month. Make sure you know where your money's going. Make sure you have a budget. Make sure you know how much money you have. Don't let your wants overtake your needs. Number 4, develop good monetary habits. Monetary habits include loans, credit cards, and all of that kind of stuff. We talked in our class. We talked a little bit about credit cards because they're coming up on the age where now I'm going to get that credit card. I'll have everything I want if I could just get a credit card. Credit cards will eat you alive. Amen. Do you know what the average? If you go to a store like Dillard's and you get a Dillard's credit card, do you know what the APR is on any store's credit card nowadays? Almost 30, like 30%. Yeah. The one that my wife had at Macy's is like 30.99% if you don't pay it off every month. So that means, what do you need to do? You need to pay it off every month as part of your budget. If you're buying stuff on a credit card because you can't afford it and you say, I'm going to let this string out, you're in bad shape. Trust me, I've been there. I speak from experience here, okay? I used to teach that you shouldn't have credit cards, but in society in which we live, you have to have credit cards. Because if you go somewhere on travel, hotels and car rental places don't take cash. Well, you got to have a credit card because they know that way that you've got credit and they know that they can get their money. And so now I've had to revise and say, yes, you can have a credit card, but here's what you need to promise yourself. That you will make every effort to pay it off every month when the bill comes. Do not charge more on your credit card than what you will be able to pay off when the bill comes. Because if you do, you're going to pay. There's a little thing that they're required to put on your credit card bill that says, if you make the minimum payment, it's going to take you 18 years and 7 months to pay this off. That's what it says. And then if you charge anything else on there, it's going to take longer than that to pay it off. Yeah. And all you're doing is paying on the interest. You're not paying any of the principal. Any of the principal. If you go to the furniture store and you got a credit card that has a $5,000 credit limit and you walk into Bob Mills, he'll take care of that for you. And you can have the furniture delivered to your house and it'll all be great, but you have to pay for it. And that $5,000 worth of furniture is going to cost you $15,000. So, find a Goodwill place that has a couch. You will feel a lot better sitting on that couch. By the way, that's a standing joke around our place. The couches we have are about 24 years old. And they're so comfortable that we can't get rid of them. They're all threadbare, but they're single cushion couches and they're really comfortable and we love them. And if we could find a place that could reupholster them, we might do that. But so far we've kept the couches because we can't find any other couches that will do any better. So if you just go out and buy ridiculous low-priced rent furniture, you'll have to replace it in a year. You know, that little stuff with the little peg things for legs, and you know, when you pull it out, the legs break, and then all of that stuff. Don't buy that stuff. You know, save your money. By the way, savings should be a line item in your budget. Savings. How much am I going to save? I know when you're young, it's hard to save. I know when you're old, it's hard to save. But you need to, that's discipline. Discipline. I'm going to go without the 5 drinks at Sonic, and I'm going to put $5 in savings this week. Sounds simple, doesn't it? It's not. It's not simple. It's not simple to, discipline is not simple, and self-discipline is worse. Right? We'll discipline our kids. We just don't like to discipline ourselves. That's much more difficult. So develop some good monetary habits. Pay off your credit cards every month. If you can't afford to do that, don't charge anything. Just make do. Whatever you have to do, make do. You will be happier. You will not be under so much stress. You won't spend as much time in the consultant's office trying to explain why you're so far in debt. Because all of these things are simple things that we never pay attention to. Number 5, pay your bills. Did you know that if you don't pay your electric bill for about 3 months, they come and shut it off? Right? So, what do you need to do? You need to pay your electric bill. Most electric bills, when you get them, it will say, pay by the 5th of the month this much. If it goes past the 5th of the month, it's going to be this much. And it's more. It's going to cost you more if you can't pay on time. You say, well, that's ridiculous. If I can't pay on time, obviously I'm poor, and I'm going to have to pay more. Yeah, that's how they figure it. And they don't have any mercy when they come to shut off your electricity either. They don't care. They're just doing their job. You can't complain to the poor guy who's working for a living, shutting people's electricity off, and he's going to come to shut you, and you're going to beg to him not to shut your... No, wait a minute, I get paid to do this. This is my job. Right? He's got to make money too. He's got a budget. So he makes his money shutting your electricity off. Because you won't discipline yourself to pay your bills. Pay your bills. Because if you don't pay your bills, they grow. They grow a lot. Number 6, make it a game. We look at finances and we get all upset and we get all distraught and we go, oh, what am I going to do with this? And I don't want to. Make it a game. See how much you can save this month. What can I've got this much money, got these many bills. I know it. Just think of it as Monopoly. What would you do? Buy Park Place. Do something. Huh?
Get some assets.
Yeah. You need assets so you can get income, right? That's how you get income, is from assets. So make it a game. Say, how are we going to do this month? Sit down. Don't cry. Don't yell at your wife. Sit down. Pray over your budget. Get your wallet out. See how much money you've got. You might come up a little bit short once in a while. It's okay. People have done that before. But make it a game. You'll ruin your attitude if you get mad about it. And after all, if you get mad about it, who are you really getting mad at? You, right? Where did we spend all this money? You always yell at each other, right? How did we spend all this money? I didn't spend it. That's what my wife always said. That's why the husband is supposed to take control of the finances, right? So the wife can yell at him. Well, we don't have any baby formula. You spent all the money. Well, I had to get to work. Take a day off. Stay home and feed the baby. Make it a game. Number 7. This is just spend less. It's simple, right? But if you spend less, you'll have fewer bills. If you spend less, your budget will be more manageable. And there's so many things. I mean, how many times, I need creamer for my coffee. Will you run to Walmart and get me some creamer for my coffee? You know what? So it's like, you know what the price of gas is these days? So you spend $2.50 going to Walmart to get 99 cents worth of creamer, and you bring it back home and you've spent $4. You say, $4 is nothing. Maybe to you. But $4 is $4. That's $4 you could give to the Lord. That's $4 you could put in savings. That's $4 you could pay some other bill with. That's $4 you could put towards getting out of credit card debt. That's $4. Now I know some of you who invest in cryptocurrency don't have to worry about any of that anymore. But some of us are scared to death of cryptocurrency, and we don't want anything to do with it. So I'm too old to get into that. I'm not going to do that. So spend less. Number 8, give. Give. We spend so much time worrying about our finances and worrying about what we need and worrying about what we want and worrying about how I'm going to save up to get this. If we want something, we plan to get it, right? We're going to put our minds to it. We're going to save up, and then we're going to spend it. I got an idea. Go through all of that trouble and try to save up and keep some of it. What a novel approach. Novel approach. Give. Give something. How many times is the word give used in the Bible? I didn't look it up, but it's a lot. I almost guarantee that the word give appears more often in the Bible than the word take. Because we're supposed to give. And who knows? If you sit down and you discipline yourself and you make a budget and God blesses your income because you're doing things the right way and you honor him in your finances and things may work out financially. Are you going to be rich? Maybe not. Maybe not. But you can be happy. You don't have to be rich to be happy. I know a lot of miserable rich people. Did you know that the suicide rate is much higher among rich people than it is among poor people who don't have anything to live for? Because we don't have anything. But we still want to live. I want to live. I can't even imagine of taking one's own life. That just, I'm scared. I don't think I could do it. Give. God's people were taught to give. Do you know where God's people were taught to give? In the desert. Think about that for a minute. God's people were taught to give when they were in the desert. Did they have any income? No income. How am I supposed to give? I don't have any income. God says give. What you got in your pocket? What you got in your ears? What you got on your head? That's what they gave, right? So we need some gold to put on the Ark of the Covenant. What are we going to do? We're going to take up a collection. But we don't have any income. Tough. Life is rough. God didn't say give you an income. He said give. And it's amazing if you were to look around in your home. I am guilty. I'm a hoarder. I've got collections of stuff that I should sell. And I've got old camera equipment. It's it's wonderful. It's old. It's antique. I've got knives. I'm just a hoarder. Maybe you have something you could sell besides your good looks. No. Maybe you have a talent. I was going to mention this to my class this morning. We think, I don't have anything. Maybe you have a talent. I know some of the young people have talents. I know some of them can work on cars. I know some of them can make dresses because they've made dresses for me. Not that I wore them. I don't. I gave them away. But if you're a young person and you say, well, I don't know what to do, I don't have any money. What can you do? What kind of talent do you have? Who would be interested in that? What could I do for somebody that they might be interested in having that done? There's just investigate yourself and see what you can do. Because you can do a lot. You got a lot of talented young people. And within the next 5 years, they're not going to be young people anymore. They're going to be making a budget, scratching out a living, trying to exist. I've seen a lot of kids grow up in this church. Donald and Sean and all of these kids were like this high. But kids, guess what? Kids grow up. And when kids grow up, kids get responsibilities. And wouldn't it be nice for kids to see parents that showed some financial responsibility so that they could have some sort of example instead of just going wild with everything? And they could say, My parents didn't get that new couch because they couldn't afford it. And they sat down and they counted the cost and they made a budget and they said, no, you can't have that big tricycle with the big wheels on it because Santa can't afford it. Right? Oh, that's another story. We never told our kids about Santa. We were always the people in the supermarket when we'd go up to the counter and it was Christmas time and someone would say to one of our kids, oh, is Santa going to bring you something? There ain't no Santa. Just a bunch of spoil sports. So, time's up. We think this is a little game and we think, this is just a fill-in and we think, whatever. This is important stuff.
Amen.
This is where you live. And for young people, this is where, in 5 years, this is where you're going to be living. You're going to have to do this. You're going to be responsible for this. Your parents are not always going to be there. They're not always going to be able to take care of you. Sometimes your parents are not taking care of you now. So you may have to take care of yourself. This is important stuff. Everything that we do is based on finances. Every decision you make is based on finances. Every possession you have depends on finances. Every day of your life, you make financial decisions. Every day. Every day. So I hope you make good ones. And then when you get old, like me, the government's going to take it all away. But until then, be prosperous. Make a budget. Give. Do what God says. Amen? Amen. All right. You're dismissed. Thank you.